1. Tom Cruise personally designed a 3-month aviation training course for the new actors to become ready to handle riding in an F-18. This included underwater training, as well as enduring extreme G-forces in a variety of planes. 2. Filming was a roller coaster, or similar, because almost all of the actors threw up during their training and filming for the movie. The only ones who didn't were Cruise himself and Monica Barbaro, who plays Phoenix. 3. The US Navy allowed real aircraft carriers to be used for filming. The USS Theodore Roosevelt is used, and during the opening sequence, the USS Abraham Lincoln is also used. This is shown by the Abe Lincoln bobblehead seen on screen when jets are taking off. 4. The roof of the shack next to Ed Harris wasn't supposed to be lifted when Maverick flies past in the Dark Star. The crew only had one shot in the fly past in the plane, doubling up for the one scene in the movie that we'll take a look at later. The roof came off and the shot stayed in. 5. Miles Teller got to choose his own call sign. He chose Rooster because it used the same avian theme as Goose, his fictional dad in the movies. Glen Powell's original choice of Slayer needed to be changed to Hangman, as Slayer was already a call sign in the military. 6. Director Joseph Kosinski shot 800 hours worth of footage from real jets. At one point he had 27 cameras running simultaneously, 4 jets up in the air and 2 units filming on the ground. He shot more footage in the air than was shot for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Epic. 7. The moment Rooster bumps his head on the canopy while flying inverted was real and not part of the script. Miles Teller wasn't strapped in tightly enough for the move, so he should be thankful it was only his head that got bumped. Director Joseph Kosinski liked the authenticity of the shot and kept the take in the film. 8. Lewis Pullman, who plays Bob in Maverick, is the son of actor Bill Pullman, who played President Thomas J. Whitmore in Independence Day, and who flew the older version of the F-8-18 Hornet at the end of that movie. The difference is, Pullman Jr. was inside the real Super Hornet, while his dad was in a studio. 9. The movie is the 5th film that earned $1 billion worldwide, without being released in China. The first 4 films are Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest, The Dark Knight, Joker, and Spider-Man: No Way Home. 10. On one of his visits to a Navy base, Joseph Kosinski took some photos for reference. Later, due to security concerns, he had his camera wiped and the Navy confiscated it. 11. Because they were in the cockpit with only pilots for company, the actors had to film themselves, turning the camera on and off, and they also had to touch up their own makeup, adjust their lighting, and handle their own sound. Looks like they earned their money. 12. Tom Cruise insisted that Val Kilmer reprised his role as Iceman. He also made it clear he wanted to work with Kosinski after the two were on set shooting Oblivion together. 13. Kenny Loggins re-recorded a version of Danger Zone for the sequel, but Cruise insisted that they use the first version as heard in the 1986 original movie. I hope he was paid for that waste of time. 14. Mad Men actor Jon Hamm accepted his role in the film without even reading the script. He would play Maverick's senior officer Cyclone in the movie. Josh Brolin was also considered for the role, so it's good that Hamm didn't waste any time. He admitted that he was relieved Cyclone didn't have any flying scenes because he was spared the training needed to pull off the shots. 15. The shirtless beach volleyball scene had to be shot twice because Cruise didn't think the actors looked good enough. They were told after the cast went out for milkshakes and tater tots the night of the first shoot. They then had to get back in the gym for a couple of weeks before the reshoot. 16. Both Goose in the original movie and his son Rooster in the sequel tell Maverick, "Come on Mav, do some of that pilot shit."
Come on, Mav, do some of that pilot shit. Come on, Mav, do some of that pilot shit.
In this movie, both Rooster and Maverick are under enemy fire. 17. Miles Teller learned how to play Great Balls of Fire on the piano himself, so he could play the song for real. He studied music when he was younger and still dabbles in it. This links back to the fact that Teller is well known for playing the lead character and drummer in Whiplash. 18. The film is dedicated to the memory of original Top Gun director Tony Scott, Ridley Scott's brother. Tony died by his own hand in 2012 at the age of 68. He had been developing his own version of a sequel before he passed away. 19. Jennifer Connelly suffered from a fear of flying, so Cruise had to help her overcome this phobia by taking her for a ride in his 1946 vintage P-51 Mustang. This is the World War II plane he has owned since 2001 and is seen at the end of the film. 20. The yacht that Cruise and Connelly are sailing in Maverick is a J125. It's a 31-foot high-performance sailing machine designed by Rod Johnston at specialist boat builders J Boats. The acting duo sailed the boat for real, but a crew member was hidden in the hull with the ability to take control of the wheel if necessary. 21. Despite the amount of high-speed dogfighting, Kosinski claimed that the sailing scene was the hardest sequence to shoot. The location had to be moved twice because of no wind, and when it was finally filmed in the San Francisco Bay Area, there was so much wind that the actors had difficulty keeping the boat upright. 22. The opening text matches that of the original movie, except inshore has been correctly changed to enshore, and men has been updated to men and women. At the time of the original, there weren't any female fighter pilots in the US. Brigadier General Janine Leavitt became the Air Force's first female fighter pilot in 1993. 23. To reinforce the character of Fanboy, his call sign letters on his helmet own the title fonts of the original Star Trek. 24. The make and model of the motorbike that Maverick races against the jet fighter is a Kawasaki Ninja H2 Carbon 2019. This is a natural successor to the one seen in the original Top Gun, a 1985 Kawasaki GPZ 900, a precursor to the Ninja motorcycle. 25. Miles Teller became ill during filming and broke out in head-to-toe hives after a flight. The doctor revealed that the actor had been suffering an allergic reaction from the presence of jet fuel in his bloodstream. When Teller told Cruise about it, the veteran quipped, "Yeah, I was born with it, kid." 26. For filming, the US Navy charged the production of Top Gun Maverick over $11,000 an hour for access to its FA-18 Super Hornet fighter jet. This contributed to the final budget ending up at $171 million. That'll do it. 27. When Maverick taxis the Dark Star hypersonic aircraft to the runway before his record-breaking run, a cartoonish skunk is seen on the rear tail fin. The skunk is the logo of Skunk Works, a division of Lockheed Martin, which produced the world's fastest real-life plane, the SR-71 Blackbird, among other iconic aircraft. 28. Cruise met with Alien director Ridley Scott to see if he'd be interested in directing this movie, as his brother had directed the original film. Ridley politely declined, as he said that fast-paced, high-octane action movies like this were not really his style. However, he did draw up a list of directors he thought would be better candidates for Cruise. 29. The movie is shot entirely on IMAX-certified Sony Venice 6K full-frame cameras. These were developed specifically for the film in order to shoot the cockpit sequences. The sensor is able to detach itself from the camera body, connected by a fiber optic cable, which allows the camera rigs to fit in the tight spaces if needed, with the body placed in the jet's mechanics. 30. AI was used for Val Kilmer's voice. The actor had lost his speech in real life after treatment for throat cancer. The filmmakers used the latest technology to have Iceman deliver his lines in the movie. London-based company Sonatic used archival footage with an AI-based voice dubbing technique for this movie magic, and Kilmer has since used it in real life. 31. Although CGI was used sparingly in the film, some effects were used. Some of the more hazardous cockpit shots, for safety's sake, needed to be filmed against a cockpit rig on a gimbal set against a green screen. Also, some old-fashioned, detailed, large-scale models were made by experts for FX shots of aircraft explosions. Also, it was too dangerous and expensive to use real missiles for the movie, so CG was used for these. 32. During the iconic volleyball scene in the original film, Slider lets out an excited howl, just after Maverick dives into the sand. The same howl can be overheard in the background of the football scene in Top Gun Maverick, just before Hondo jumps into the game. 33. Admiral Simpson is named after the late Don Simpson, one of the producers of the original film. Simpson is also seen as part of the Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer film's title card during the movie. This was done at the request of Jerry Bruckheimer, Simpson's partner and longtime friend, who said Don was a strong champion for a Top Gun sequel and deserved to have his name on the film. 34. For the scene with the roof blowing off we saw earlier, an FA-18 was used to double for the fictional Dark Star plane flying over Admiral Kane. At the time, a 69-year-old Ed Harris genuinely stood perfectly still while enduring the blast to his face. 35. Maverick tells Rooster that if he were to fly long enough, there would be other flyers who would be lost. These are the exact words that Viper shared with him 36 years earlier when Goose died.
But there will be others. You can count on it.
36. The enemy fighters are never named by country, but there are some clues as to who they might be. On one aggressor aircraft, a red star with a coloured circle is the same marking used in the original by the MiG-28 to represent South Korea's less friendly neighbours. The fifth-generation fighters the US faces are the Su-57s, NATO callsign Felon. Just over a dozen have been made up to 2022, and its only operator is that big one that likes to invade places. And the enemy also uses F-14 Tomcats. The only other nation other than the US to use this plane is that one in the Middle East that's fond of nuclear power. 37. Cruise was approached about a Top Gun sequel in 1990, but at the time Cruise said that it would be irresponsible to make a sequel, as it wouldn't be a true reflection on the Navy. It wasn't until 2010, when producer Bruckheimer and the director of the original film, Scott, had a strong enough story that Cruise agreed to. 38. Director Joseph Kosinski has made a habit of directing sequels to 80s films decades after their originals. Maverick came 36 years after the first. He also directed Tron Legacy, released 28 years after the original. 39. When Tom Cruise was on location in the UK filming Edge of Tomorrow, he asked 7-time Formula One champion and Top Gun fan Lewis Hamilton to be one of the starring roles within the group. Unfortunately, Hamilton had to decline the offer due to his commitment to his racing obligations. 40. The movie's Academy Award nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay was so unexpected that it produced an audible shock in the room when the nominations were read. 41. The scene in Cecil's Cafe, where a boy tells Maverick he's on Earth, was filmed at the Halfway House Cafe, located on the outskirts of Santa Clarita. It's around 127.8 miles away from China Lake, California, where he took off. 42. Kaczynski claimed that the one piece of advice he rejected from actual pilots to make the bombing run as challenging a scenario as possible was to set the flight at night. 43. During the first scene at the bar, Hangman plays a song on the jukebox by pressing the numbers 8 and 6. This is a reference to the year the original Top Gun was released, 1986. Also, Maverick is 86th, which is US bar slang for being thrown out of a bar soon after his credit card is declined. 44. At ICE's funeral, the famous missing person formation is shown during the flypast. This is where, at the last moment, one of the pilots pulls up out of formation, indicating someone has passed on. 45. Jennifer Connelly plays Penny Benjamin. In the original Top Gun, that character is referenced by Meg Ryan's character in the diner scene as being an admiral's daughter that Maverick had dated. She's only referenced but never seen in the original. 46. The Navy's oldest fighter pilot retired at 54. Calculating from Maverick's birth in 1962 and counting to 2022 when the film actually came out, he is 60 in this film. This checks out as Cruise celebrated his 60th birthday while the film was still on theatrical release. The fact Maverick is still flying is pushing the envelope, as pilots would say. 47. Glen Powell didn't originally like his role as Hangman. He saw him as a Navy equivalent of Draco Malfoy, so he worked hard on making him more layered and sympathetic. 48. 3 actors were in the running to play Rooster. Miles Teller, Nicholas Hoult, and Glen Powell were all considered to play Goose's son. They were all flown to Tom Cruise's home for chemistry tests, and Teller won out, but Powell had impressed Cruise and Jerry Bruckheimer so much he was given the role of Hangman instead. 49. The Department of Defense Entertainment Media Office provided support for the movie in terms of expertise and military equipment. The department has existed for over a century and oversaw making the first ever Best Picture Oscar winner, Wings. 50. Cruise got a lot of money for his performance. It was initially reported that Cruise was paid $13 million to reprise his role, but another report came out in 2022 that indicated, all things considered, Cruise made $100 million for Maverick.